Hello everyone, I would like to welcome all our attendees. We see that they are coming one by one. Look at the numbers, we passed 60 attendees, perfect. Maybe we will wait one more minute, it is 11:03. We give another minute, and when I get the go-ahead from our chief operator behind the cameras, we will start right away with our panel. And but it is great to have everyone here, and we are getting slowly ready. Thank you very much. I believe we are slowly okay. We can start. I would like to welcome you to our webinar, co-hosted by Consulate General of Switzerland, Swiss Chamber of Commerce, Switzerland Global Enterprises. Today, we will be discussing the role of the healthcare industry in the fight against COVID-19. Last 3 months on digital media and TV, we have been reading and hearing mostly how to protect ourselves, how hospitals and health professionals responding to the situation. We heard also recommendations from especially in Turkey, from the scientific committee. We will be focusing more today on pharmaceutical and diagnostic sectors. We have 4 distinguished panelists with us. As you see, we have Dr. Avinash Potnis with us, Dr. Natasa Klicko, Dr. Diyar Akkaynak, and Burçak Çelik with us. I would like to briefly introduce them to you. We have 45 minutes, therefore I will go fast. Dr. Avinash Potnis is the Managing Director of Novartis Pharma. Dr. Avinash has been leading Novartis Pharma Turkey as Managing Director since 2017. He has 25 years of broad multinational experience in pharmaceuticals, and he progressed through the roles of increasing responsibility across different geographies, mostly within Novartis. As you see, it goes on from Vietnam, Thailand, from headquarters in Basel. He has a long resume. In order to keep use time efficiently, I would like to go just on one paragraph of each our distinguished members. Dr. Natasa Klicko is the General Manager of Roche Pharma Turkey. Dr. Natasa Klicko, the General Manager of Roche Pharma Turkey since May 2019, has worked in various positions in different global pharma companies and had the chance to have a wide experience in different diversified therapy areas, as well as other lines of pharmaceutical business, such as over-the-counter and generic businesses over 20 years. Thank you very much for being with us. You arrived here and right away in this crisis, but great to have you here, and also we had a discussion with us yesterday, having your approach on more patient-centric view makes difference. Thank you very much for being with us. Dr. Diyar Akkaynak is the Chief Scientific Officer, Novartis Pharma Turkey. Following graduation in 2001 from School of Medicine in Marmara University, Istanbul, Dr. Diyar Akkaynak got his MBA degree, specializing on hospital management from Yeditepe University, Istanbul. Since 2004, he has been taking increasing responsibilities in the field of medical affairs and scientific research and development at pharmaceutical companies. He currently leads the scientific operations at Novartis Pharma Turkey. Dr. Diyar, thank you very much for being with us. And last and not least, Burçak Çelik is the General Manager of Roche Diagnostics Turkey, Head of Turkey, Central Asia and Caucasian Countries Management Center. Burçak Çelik has over 20 years of experience in the healthcare industry and held various positions in Turkey and globally. She started her career at Pfizer in the US in 1997, when she was just a kid, most likely. She looks so young, where she gained experience in marketing and business development. She joined increasing responsibilities in scientific therapeutic areas. She moved to South Africa in 2012 to assume the role of General Manager Pharma South Africa Management Center in South Africa and Sub-Saharan region. In another occasion, maybe you would like to hear all your stories from Sub-Saharan and South Africa region. I'm sure there are many adventures from that region. And without losing any time, I would like to come right away to our subject and start with my questions, if I may so. My first question is actually, we have the borders closed, everyone knows it. And we follow the situation actually from media, nation by nation. Okay, that's fine. It looks like it is a national problem, but this virus covers the whole world. So it's an interesting paradox here because we hear nation by nation, but it's a world problem. If I look nation by nation, in fact, in Switzerland, we are here, Swiss Chamber of Commerce, Switzerland should be the flag carrier of it because the biggest pharma companies headquarters in Switzerland, the cluster in Neuchâtel is known as the center of medical devices. We know Switzerland is the #1 in world competitive index, but Switzerland is not the flag carrier. So it looks like this is not a national approach. How do you see that? May I start with Dr. Natasa and go to, as the second step, to Dr. Avinash? Can we start that way? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doğan Bey. First of all, hello to everybody who watches us through the screens, and thank you for joining us today in this burning topic, as it is for everyone. You know, there are a few questions that you have posed there, and of course there are a few answers. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for recognizing Swiss companies as being at the forefront of the science and progress in healthcare, and we take a lot of pride in that. And both Roche and Novartis are dealing with the most difficult diseases, the most difficult to treat diseases at the moment, and technological progress that we bring in healthcare is definitely far ahead of most the others in the industry. And it's fair to say that our area of expertise is not infectious diseases. So in that sense, we do have a significant research in the area of virology. And what we do, we have opened up all of our basic research to those who are the experts in infectious diseases and can take it faster forward. However, as pharma companies and diagnostic companies, we have made a huge contribution in the COVID-19 fight up to today. Burçak will tell us more about the progress on the diagnostic front, and both Avinash and Diyar can share the number of molecules that we have moved through the clinical research in order to find the solutions for the current problem as fast as possible. One thing that I think we should appreciate all as citizens, is the point where the technology and development of pharmaceutical companies is today, and the ability to ramp up the production, to manage the supply chains uninterruptedly, irrelevant of the border closings, and ability to shift the research into those areas that can bring solution to a completely new disease. When you think about it, we are in this situation for 2 or 3 months, and you already have first results. You have more than 120 trials happening, and we will see first results in June. So I would say that the reaction of the industry, as well as the regulators, has been extremely fast. And that happened because we share the same problem. And this is, I think, the second part of your question, is it the national problem or is it a global problem? And I would say that the problem is common, it's definitely global, and solution comes from the collaboration and network across countries, across the regulators, the industry, academia. So only through collaboration we can find a problem as fast as we need to find it. If we will stay close behind the borders and be focused only on what we can do, that solutions we would find, but they would come much, much slower. So yes, as Switzerland, we are very proud of the solutions that we have brought as representatives of a Swiss pharma industry. I think we are definitely at the forefront and leading in terms of bringing solutions. And I'm extremely proud for the ability of collaborating across industry, across all the segments of healthcare that we have seen since the beginning of COVID-19 crisis. So yes, I would say the solution is to look outside, not to look inside.
Thank you very much. So it's thank you. Can I give the word to Dr. Avinash, please?
Sure. Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. Natasha has put it so nicely. Actually, it's like nothing more to add actually. But let me give you my perspective about how the industry reacts to the situation like this. Now, obviously, as Doğan Bey said, that it's a bit paradoxical that for a global pandemic, the issue that we have, the challenge that we have in industry, the response also has to be, let's say global, and it cannot be just confined to one company or one country. But interestingly, what you see over the period of time in the last 2-3 months, there is a lot of nationalistic feeling going around, So obviously, I would not be surprised to a global pandemic. Probably there could be a very nationalistic response later, but a political response, I would say. Coming to the pharma industry in Switzerland, see, collectively, we must be putting around $30-40 billion a year into research and development. Which at least I know Novartis and Roche put together, it's around $20 billion, only 2 companies. But normally what happens that the gestation period of any pharmaceutical product from its library to the field or to the application takes roughly 20 years, means from the patent, and then for commercialization almost 10 years. When we look at this kind of gestation period, just to put it from the experience point of view, I always simulate this with some numbers, with people understand how complex it is. It takes roughly 40 PhD scientists and their 25 years of individual PhD experience to bring one product to the market. So obviously you don't expect that there could be a knee-jerk reaction by the pharma industry to churn out a product within 2 months or 3 months of the virus being there on the platform. So what normally happens is that obviously there are a lot of work is going on in Switzerland, and you will see the results over a period of time, but it takes time. It's like, so the industry normally goes into phases, and if they have a situation like this, obviously the companies who have expertise in vaccines, companies who have expertise in diagnostics would be the first one to react, because that's where we really need the response. And thankfully, as Natasha said, I think the regulators also reacted very positively, and therefore you see around at least 10 vaccine candidates are in different phases of trials. But Switzerland as such, also contributing to this as one of the companies called Lonza, which is actually putting up their resources and their capacities to produce one of the new vaccine concept called Moderna's vaccine called mRNA vaccine. A lot of things are happening behind the curtain, like Novartis and Roche are also part of the consortium, where we are joining hands with Bill Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on therapeutic accelerators. There are a lot of partnerships, like for example, there's a partnership on new drug development with Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. And all that you will see over a period of time, things would come out. So just to answer that one question or one set of questions that Doğan Bey asked, where does Switzerland stand in this whole process of response? We definitely stand firm, and companies are actually doing a bit of whatever they can do. But the immediate response from the companies obviously is to look at their existing portfolio, look at where those portfolio basically is adding any new indications to another, to help the patient suffering from COVID, either to preventing the disease or stopping the disease or treating the disease. And the second phase is to develop vaccines, diagnostic part, and all that. So there's a lot of things that are happening, and thank you for giving us that platform, Doğan Bey, to share what's happening really, behind the curtain.
Perfect. So what I understand is, I mean, you have a special role actually in this fight against COVID-19 because you are one of the largest multinational. So you operate cross borders. So although for us it looks more like national problem, and we try to find national solution because the media and all around it gives that message to us. I believe. It's similar other countries as well, if you listen their televisions and their media. But you are practically over the borders and use all your R&D capabilities in all your offices to find a solution. So you are obviously operating, you have a completely different position as a multinational company. Can I ask at this point, and then I will move forward, the collaboration, Dr. Natasha mentioned, you opened your R&D to some, because you said you are not a infectious diseases focusing, but you open your R&Ds. Is there any examples we can share on both sides from Novartis and Roche, how we operate, which companies, are they SMEs, are they academia, any examples there maybe? Then I will go to further questions.
Maybe I will take over this question from Novartis perspective.
Okay.
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Diyar Akkaynak. One of the critical mindset shift at this pandemic is the collaboration. So all the global companies put the commercial interest behind and working within the collaboration. As Novartis, we are part of 5 different collaborations. One of them is Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The other one is a COVID-19 collaboration that we are doing with 2 big multinational pharma companies. One of them is Takeda, the other one is Gilead. So we are working to find a pan-coronavirus treatment with them. So it's not only for the COVID-19, but it's a solution, a cure, a remedy for any coronavirus infection that can happen after this crisis. So what we are doing is that we are opening our compound books, we are opening our scientific expertise, we are collaborating together and trying to find solutions. So we are putting all the things that we have on the open websites. So even a company or any university out of this collaboration can easily access to what we put at this open websites and produce over this. So this is one of the things that is differentiating this crisis from the previous crisis. As an example, as I said, we are working on a pan-coronavirus. We open all the compound booklets that we have. We found for other illnesses, any researcher can easily access these compounds and can find the solution with coronavirus for coronaviruses. So this is the approach that we are doing, and also we are doing in Europe with innovative medicine initiatives, another one. So we have a huge screening capacities within the companies, multinational companies, and we open this screening capacities also. So we are collaborating on this mindset.
Thank you very much, Dr. Diyar. Burçak Hanım, I would like to move to you on your side, on the diagnostic sides, the collaborations, the progress is done on your sides, because diagnostics have been talked a lot. Before we entered, we discussed about diagnostics. Pretty much one of the big hopes is having the right test kits, and we hope with test kits we can measure and come and operate much in a safer manner. What is your take on that?
Thank you very much, first of all, for organizing this panel and also joining us today. And our focus today is a topic that is beyond healthcare, actually. So we are in a situation where we need collaboration. And in the last 3 months, we have really seen the value of diagnosis and how important is it to respond in a fast and scalable manner. So I think those 2 key takeaways for me is to be fast and also to have a scalable manner in that sense. I agree with Natasha, Avinash and Diyar. it's not possible for one company or a single authority to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic alone and meet the needs in such a short timeline, because every country needs it at the same time, and our capacity of production is limited on the diagnostic side as well. So it's very critical for both local and global solutions beyond healthcare to come together and work for one common role, which is to fight with the pandemic. Testing, tracking, tracing, and treating is the most important strategy that leads to success in pandemic management until vaccinations and the treatment become available. So again, we have seen a very specific characteristics in the SARS-CoV-2. It was highly infectious, it is still, long incubation period, and we also see patients with no symptoms. So I think this also was different dynamics we have seen with SARS-CoV-2. So therefore, the effectiveness of testing, tracking, and tracing was very important, and it really relies on speed and the accuracy of the testing. I think in that space, in terms of the accuracy of testing, the international companies or the companies with big R&D investments, has taken very quick actions in that sense. And from an R&D perspective, as Roche Diagnostics, we are experienced in infectious disease. So I think we also had the background of immediately checking and looking for accelerating our treatment, in terms of testing and development efforts to provide these highly reliable and high quality tests, because it's also very important in that sense. In record time, Roche got FDA and EU approval for not only for our PCR test in March, but also for our antibody test in May. And we provided fully automated PCR tests, and which aims to detect the active infection in a fast and reliable way. As now everyone knows what a PCR test is, it's a molecular test. It is tracking the presence of viral genetic material in the patients. And it can really show, we were discussing it earlier, even though where there are no symptoms. So PCR test is very important in terms of diagnosing. In May, in addition to PCR testing, which is the first important step in terms of diagnosis, we have our antibody test that is a complementary to the PCR test as well. It got approval from FDA and EU in May, again in a track record time. And this actually really shows the antibodies in patients who has exposed to virus. This is really important because especially for the risk, high risk priority patients, like people who works in healthcare, in service industries, it's really important for us to really identify if you actually have been infected and you are well now. So in that sense, it's very important for us to have the PCR test and also the serology test in that sense. And we have made those two tests available in as early as possible in March and May. And the other important part is the scale, because even though you have these tests available, you have to make this available to all countries, because we were fighting at the same time at different levels. So in that sense, Roche Diagnostics worked very intensively to really ramp up the production and made sure that all the countries received the tests in the countries. So the situation was same in Turkey. So once the tests were available, we actually, with one Roche approach, with Pharma and Diyar together, we met with the stakeholders, the government, the Health Ministry of Health, the Health Scientific Committee, and also the public health institution, and really shared with them how we can really help them in the fast way and also in a reliable way to fight with the COVID-19 outbreak. And we made the test available in Turkey in 10 days after it was approved by FDA. So I think our biggest, challenge now is to really continue ramping up the tests, especially, and also introduce the antibody tests in Turkey, because it's very important for normalization. As now we are really talking about how we are going to go back to work, how we are going to open up tourism, and how we really, make sure that we don't really get uncaught with the expected consequences of the test. In addition to these, we are continuing with our R&D, especially in different ways of deliveries, like point of care tests, which doesn't require a lab, because all the other tests, they require a lab. It's also, a little bit complicated in that test sense. So we are still working on how we can really come up with different alternatives in terms of, making sure that we have practical solutions, but also helping the patients that doesn't require to go to the hospitals for their chronic diseases, which is also important in that sense.
Thank you very much. So I would like to repeat one thing. You said before vaccine and medicine comes, diagnostic is highly critical. And you follow 4 steps there: test, tracking,
and tracing.
And tracing. Okay.
And this is what we have seen as a success in Korea, in Singapore as well. I think we have some further improvement areas in the tracing part when it comes to Turkey in that sense. But again, I think within the tracking part, as the scientific committee has really implemented the strict treatment guidelines, we had a successful management of COVID-19 in Turkey from my experience and from the discussions we are having. So it's really important to really have the testing, tracking and tracing, where the PCR test and the antibody test plays a very important role for us to really, make sure that we don't get unquote to the second peak.
Perfect. So in that case, the PCR is most also like a testing part. We track, and with the antibody test, we practically tracking. Is this the way I should understand?
Yes,
how
you can say
divide?
correct. And we continue to do this in 2 weeks' time to make sure that we also cover the, the related people, who might be infected by the people who are already infected.
Perfect. One thing is, of course, highly critical I would like to share here. I have been involved lots of startups in my past life, and there is a major difference between a startup. They come up with solutions, fine, but having that solution tested for high reliability is another mastery. It's not easy. Companies like yours can do it in a large scale and efficient manner, because a startup can come up with a kit very quickly, but we don't know the reliability or the quality level, or the sensitivity level is around 50-60. This is like tossing a coin. So it is important that it is high reliable, and sensitivity is around 99%, which I assume your test kits around that range, because otherwise it wouldn't pass in your internal regulatory. Is it so? What is
Correct.
the sensitivity of your tests?
Correct, it's 99.8%, and the most important part is also during this very short time frame, it's difficult for Roche to come up with tests at that sense. So we have also evaluated more than 100 startup companies to really, look into which ones have the highest sensitivity and also a reliability. And in that sense, we have seen companies, again, as you said, around 50%. So we kind of eliminate them because that won't really help this really fighting with the pandemic. And I can, proudly say that as Roche, we have the highest sensitivity and also reliability in that sense in our tests. And hence, we have the very quick approvals from FDA and EU.
Perfect. So for everyone to understand, this getting to high reliability level is an issue. It's not a simple thing. Everyone can come up with a solution, but to put it at a high level, it's similar thing. As Dr. Avinash mentioned, you can come up with a molecule, but going through the clinical test, going through the phase test, that's what takes time. Finding it is important, but the whole reliability process, what makes it expensive and complicated. Going through that and getting high reliable and high sensitivity, and as you mentioned, make it to large scale is another issue, and therefore we need companies like you can manage, but of course highly critical to cooperate with SMEs and startups. Maybe they have an idea and you can realize it. So a collaboration there is highly critical as well. What I also understand from Novartis side is they opened their databases, they opened their compound booklets, they opened their essays, isn't it? What I understand, open for collaboration, and we can find it on various web pages. maybe if you could share this later on with us, the interested parties could access, and maybe, I mean, most of them know, but there are maybe some people they don't know, but it's a highly critical having this accumulated knowledge, because this viral diseases are 100 years old, and Novartis and Roche, those are each over 200 years old companies. Those accumulated knowledge and experience is highly critical to move forward. Thank you very much on that. I would like to add one simple question here. We said we collaborate. How are the situation of collaboration in the Turkish side? I mean, you are multinational. You look at the beyond the borders, but do you do? I would like to ask Dr. Natasa and Dr. Avinash maybe. Are there positions, operations in Turkey, or in the future are there possibilities to operate to cooperation or opportunities for cooperation for the future? Ladies first.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Well, in COVID-19 situation, the collaboration happens at R&D side, but it also happens at all other levels. So collaboration with the authorities, with the physicians, with the patient advocacy groups, we should not forget about that. When it comes to R&D collaborations and say, how can we progress faster and capture the ideas from different areas? I think we all develop a different type of collaborations. From Roche perspective, locally, we are very much focused in the area of personalized healthcare. And personalized healthcare covers a whole patient journey from the proper diagnosis that can go either with the individual markers or with the comprehensive genomic profiling, where you get loads of information about the disease. It helps you identify the best treatment options for the patient. But you have to follow, and these are the areas that we already cover, but there are a huge area of how do we use data collected through the process in terms of either the diagnostic profile or in terms of how that disease evolved in terms of outcomes, capturing those data, using them to make smarter decisions along the way, are the new areas of innovation as well. So we are not only focused on identifying new chemical or biological molecules to treat the disease, but looking at the more comprehensively total patient journey. And our collaborations today are largely focused on collaboration with the data scientists. So for example, we have a close collaboration with Koç University to understand how can we jointly use the data that are existing or that we should collect to improve the outcomes in healthcare. A strong collaborator in Turkish environment, pharma industry, and for the Roche as well is TÜSEP, that is very much focused on building the basic research capabilities in the country and creating prerequisites for Turkey to be the innovation center. And they're sharing the experience, the knowledge on how can we create enough basic research to be able to generate the innovation as well at the country level. This is the area where we collaborate a lot with TÜSEP, largely in terms personalized healthcare and mapping the Turkish genome, which is the basis for the future research. Of course, there are many more opportunities to collaborate then across borders and increase the databases, because the value of data actually sits in the scale of it. I think both Novartis and Roche are the top companies in terms of clinical research that we do in Turkey. So we collaborate with many healthcare organizations and hospitals and institutions in Turkey, where we bring the high standards of the clinical trials and knowledge which is associated with that. So in terms of research collaborations, we work a lot with very different stakeholders, from the obvious ones from the healthcare environment, like hospitals in clinical trials, but also those which are a little bit less obvious, like the data scientists with different universities, as well as with startups startups, inviting them to join us building that puzzle. We discussed before we joined the call, is there one single solution to a complex problem? No, it's not. It's a puzzle. There are many different pieces of puzzle that you have to bring into the picture to resolve the complex problem. So I would say we grow these collaborations day by day, and we are changing as industry, as well, looking outside of our strengths that we had in the past, which is definitely still in the research of the new therapeutic solutions, and looking throughout the patient journey to bring more value. And for that, we are all the time looking for the collaborations in Turkey, because there is really a lot available in the market.
Thank you very much, Avinash.
Yeah, beautifully put, Natasha. Thank you. And she spoke for the whole industry, actually. I don't have to speak about collaboration further. But just to give you some context to this, is since Roche and Novartis put together contribute 30% of the total clinical trials happen in this country. So you can see the significant contribution anyway.
Tell me again, how many percent?
30%.
30%.
Yeah. Now, I would like to give a bit different twist to this also further, It's not only collaboration, but also compassion and collaboration, I would say, because we need both in a situation like this. Now, obviously, as Natasha said, that we have some upfront, collaborations and some background collaborations. But at the same time, in a situation like this, the first thing that the entire pharma industry in Turkey, the innovative pharma industry in Turkey, has decided and have acted upon. You must have seen that, okay, we have no layoffs. We're treated with all our associates with a lot of respect. At the same time, we didn't put any pressure on the economy of the country as such. We did not actually avail to any government support or so. Important thing is that, keeping the motivation of our associates at a highest level, because finally they intervene in the patient journey that Natasha talked about. And if we keep our, our level of enthusiasm and the length of our positivity in the country, I think probably we can really, bring a sort of healthy way of, supporting our patients. So this is number one. Number two is, our contribution, to Turkey as such is also, through donation. For example, there are, as an industry forum, first of all, we donated ventilators. We donated to the National Sovereign Fund. We have imported hydroxychloroquine, doses, 400,000 doses here to support the patients who are basically in ICU. We have donated in cash, kind, everything almost, And this was our immediate reaction, because that's exactly what the industry needed, what the healthcare practitioners needed, what the hospital staff was wanting. And also the Ministry of Health you cannot expect just one ministry or one government to react from all sides. So obviously we all join hands with them. And therefore what I feel is that, this COVID actually has really resulted into two things. One is that it has brought the industry together under one common platform. Second is that when I'm talking about industry, I'm not talking about innovative industry, but also the generic industry, the local industry, because our reaction was collective. And the most important thing is that it also, helped the stakeholders to understand that we are not here only for business. We are also here as a custodian of the healthcare. Basically, it will have a sort of long-lasting impact in our collaboration with the healthcare. Because I always believe that when we go from here, it's not let's say a role of just one regulated market like us, but it's a role of regulator. And the more we collaborate, as Natasha said, we collaborated within the industry, but we also collaborated, beyond the industry with the, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Trade. Now this I want in the future to continue at a larger scale. And then only we can help the patients. Because as Natasha said, if we have to impact the patient journey, we have started the process, but it has to have, a sort of a wider collaboration in order to bring the real impact on the patient's life. because this is not going to be the first or the last pandemic. We are going to have a situation like this in the future as well. And we should not actually let go what the learning that we got out of this phase. So my sincere request to everybody who is on the call here, or also those who are not on the call and probably take our message further. We are, as an industry, we are here to rather help our patients and healthcare practitioners, but we also need the support of regulators in order to bring either our products or research or our collaboration to this country as fast as possible.
Thank you very much. I would like to come back to one critical note, actually, also for collaboration. When we talked before, Dr. Natasha mentioned, you reminded us this is not only, and Burçak Hanım also mentioned that, we are not currently only dealing with COVID-19. Okay, COVID-19 is out there, and of course we put our forces together, some more, some less, but try to solve it. But next to that, we have also all other patients actually in the world that are suffering because of COVID-19. You mentioned this as a collateral victims. Would you mind to open that concept up? Maybe, I mean, collaboration could be to fight against COVID-19, but a collaboration could be also for those collateral victims as well. So there is not only one problem there. There are actually two problems going next to each other. COVID-19 as well as the collateral damage that COVID-19 caused to other health people that need help, please.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just to put for the, because this is what we discussed yesterday a little bit as well. When COVID came, we already had many healthcare problems. It's not like COVID now brought the focus on healthcare. We have chronic diseases, we have diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, all of them still exist, and they are major healthcare problems. With the COVID-19, as we turn focus to dealing with the current crisis, we had to put some of these patients on the back burner, whether it is the fear of getting infected in the hospital, or the overload of the healthcare system, or just focusing your mind on something which is more imminent. And that can consequently, if we stay too much in a crisis mode, just being focused on what COVID-19 is causing, can create the collateral victims of the total shift of the healthcare system towards the crisis. So this is what we cannot forget, and we as pharma industry, we are not forgetting it. So while we are dealing with COVID-19, at the same time, we are in a very close contact with all the healthcare providers, with patient advocacy groups, with the ministries, to secure new way of dealing with the patients during the crisis, and never forget that the cancer patient still needs to come to the hospital early enough to get diagnosed properly, with the intervention that will slow down the disease progress or cure the patient. So we are working very much on the experience exchange across the borders to make sure that the new protocols or the existing protocols are in place, while considering the risk that COVID-19 brings. We talk a lot with the patients and patient advocacy groups, how to help them, how to reach the hospital safely, how to create the so-called sterile hospitals where we can continue treating the patient. So there is a lot of work that is happening still behind the curtains that we do on a daily basis. And I can tell you, I don't remember when we were this busy in terms of continuously thinking ahead what will come, not only reacting, but how can we reduce the impact that we don't want to see in terms of overall mortality and overall healthcare outcomes. So that's that angle where we all work together on removing some of the obstacles for the patients today. And what Avinash have just said, let's not forget that when the good times come, I mean, good times in brackets, we just go back to our problems that we had them in the past, and working together across industries, across private, public sector, academia, with the patients, we can bring better solutions and faster solutions and work together towards the common problem, and not being seen as us pushing a certain solution while nobody else is looking at that problem with the same eyes. So I think this is the great opportunity really to understand how can we work better going forward. You know, the COVID crisis showed what is really bad in the healthcare system, what's really good in the healthcare system, and we should keep. But it also showed us that we can do smarter and better. And if we can keep that part, I think we can make major progress also in the other disease areas, not only in how we deal with the pandemic or acute pandemic.
Thank you. I have receiving some questions. I would like to reflect them to you. One of the questions says, I mean, this $1 million question actually, how long do you think it's going to take to get vaccine and get it to people in need? This is $1 million question. Who would like to answer that? And the second question, I have 4 questions waiting here. Could I take your, can I take your take on that? And of course, I mean, this is not only vaccines, also the medicine, but we are doing right now on the short term repurposing options we are looking. And would you mind to give a quick answer on that? When do you think the vaccine will be out there? And a new drug to come out may take years because the progress is usually long time, but repurposing could be much faster. So what do you think about that? Those 2 things, vaccines and medicine. Would like to answer that?
Maybe I will start. Oh. Okay, so Natasha, do you want to start? Oh.
No, Dr. Diyar, let's start it.
Okay, thank you. So I think the vaccines will be ready. So it's most probably at the beginning of next year. Just a point for this, previously pharma companies are first get the strong evidence, then scale up for manufacturing. But at this crisis, they are also building simultaneously the manufacturing capacity. So this is a problem that pharma companies invest before finding a solution. So this is one of the things that I can easily share with you. So the solution will be much more faster than we expect at the first of the crisis. The other multi-billion-dollar question, what will be the absolute solution? So up until next week, there were 400 new molecular entities that has been identified for COVID-19, and only a small portion of this is vaccines. Almost 10 to 15% of these are vaccines. So rest of them are pharma companies are working on treatment, how to treat or how to provide better relief for these patients that are already infected. So we don't know the answer for this. So even we don't know the answer that if people infected have a long-lasting and functional immunity. Last week, we have some evidences from animal studies and from some vaccine trials that there might be a long-lasting immunity, but nothing is fully strong right now. So pharma companies are working on both for vaccines and treatments. So we will see. But as an association, FPA, our message is that we will fight for the cure. So we don't know what will end, but we have a good mixture of molecules coming from vaccine side and the treatment side.
What I understand, but those are mostly repurposed molecules.
No, these are not repurposed. These are new molecular entities. The first approach was the repurposed molecules. We did this. Even we are doing the randomized clinical trials for this repurposed medicines. At Novartis, we have 3 randomized clinical trials for this repurposed molecules, but these 400 are new molecular entities that have been identified during this crisis.
I think, Diyar, I think also, just to extend that thought, I can understand the anxiety behind, asking this question when the vaccine would come. And one thing is sure, that unless we have mass vaccination, we have to live with this virus. There is no other way. To answer very objectively on this, that the first vaccine, you can see, I just shared a small, a snapshot, that there are around 10 vaccines in the development phase, and you can see the development phases as well. I think the first vaccine which could hit the market is first quarter 2021, which is Johnson & Johnson's vaccine. But besides that, I think there are three concepts which have already been developed. One is a vaccine, which is a traditional vaccine, where it's an attenuated virus that you can inject into the body, and it produces no disease, but produces antibodies. Second is mRNA vaccine, which is a new form, which is basically taking the protein out of the spike protein of the virus and then developing a similar kind of genetic information in order to produce antibodies in the body. And the third is homoserum, where the patients are already infected and they already produced their antibodies. You can develop those antibodies, recover, harvest those antibodies, recover the antibodies, and then re-inject into the patients. All three are basically going on. I mean, there are different ways of treating or preventing this disease. But to answer the question very objectively, that it's the first quarter 2021, we will see the earliest one. But as Diyar said, we are nowhere close to the capacity that we need to ramp up in order to produce mass vaccination. And that would take somewhere between 2 to 3 years from now.
I see. Maybe at that time, the increased capacity could be collaboration with the local manufacturers, maybe as well. So licensing out and doing together.
We have to see everything, because almost everybody on this planet needs the vaccine now.
Bravo. Yeah. Absolutely. There was another question. Directly, I read it. Do you think that the vaccine will be the absolute solution for this virus, or do you think there will be rather a mixture of vaccine and medicine, which might solve the problem?
Okay. Nobody knows, actually. Frankly, really nobody knows, because the response curve has, we are not even in phase 3 trials. Forget about really giving an answer which is going to be false positive anyway. So let's wait for phase 3 trials. At least we will understand both vaccines and medicines. So far, I think we haven't actually found any concrete solution or concrete answer to this question. But most probably, if the virus doesn't mutate further, and if the existing vaccine candidates actually show a mass immunity or sustainable immunity, I would say, over a period of time, then vaccine could be the answer. Treatment, being a viral disease, you have limited options for treatment anyway.
Perfect. Thank you. I have 2 more questions, and then we are coming to the end of our time. The one question is on the test kit side. The question is, did I understand right? Will we be able to make the antibody test ourselves at home?
You mean make by actually testing yourself, right?
Testing yourself, most likely.
We won't be able to make our tests at home in terms of just producing it, but testing, yes. I mean, we even have the examples of, our other tests, like, for the patients who has cardiac failures or cardiac heart valves, they have these tests, they can check their INRs with these instruments. So like that, the antibody tests can become available as well. We are looking and partnering for the opportunities for that, for the antibody testing as well. But this is not like a smart card test, so it will be much more, complicated in that sense.
And thank you. The second question is, I read it directly. Do you think it would be easier to handle such a crisis if we follow the principle of the transparent patient? Would it be possible then to contain such a crisis in a quicker way? I don't know the definition of transparent patient now. Do you know?
Probably. I don't know whether the person who asked meant, but maybe it's opening the patents, because that's a very frequent question, and kind of letting go of the intellectual property and allowing anybody to produce the products. And what we see now as we go through the crisis, and what Burçak has said, the complexity of production is such that if you want to have a consistency in the quality and safety of the product, you need to rely on the expertise. It's not as easy. You get the cookbook and you produce, especially now that we don't live in a world of a simple chemical molecules. We are talking about very complex biotechnology molecules, and to build up that expertise takes time. So where we see that the faster resolution of crisis can be achieved is if we collaborate, as you said, if we partner with different companies to scale up the production, but actually transmit that knowledge quicker. What we've seen since the beginning of crisis, we have increased the production and supply of certain products tenfold. It's really hard. You don't get that by releasing a patent in the world. So there are different ways of achieving that kind of a scaling up of production that is required to meet up the requirements that we currently have. And opening up your research and inviting everybody who has capability of managing that is of great use. Letting go of IP doesn't unfortunately solve the problem overnight.
Perfect. Thank you. I mean, that IP issue is actually a critical issue. Maybe we can get together again to discuss this IP issue, because that can take hours to discuss, but there are different views, of course. As an original manufacturer has a view on the generic, which I represent. Some quite often is another view, but definitely it's not a single shot answer. Yes, we have to open, there is a solution, or we have to close it, there is a solution. As you mentioned, scale up, quality, and reliability. Those are critical issues and has to be guaranteed. Otherwise, you try to make it good, but its side effects are higher. And in fact, most likely we will also see over time some side effects of the medicine that have been used currently. So that's another thing. So we are learning day by day. We are treatment protocols, and every day we learn. We had to respond quickly, but we learn if the therapy protocols we used were 100% secure or not. It's very difficult to say anything 100% secure, because if you react so fast, it's very difficult to run all the tests necessary. Therefore, producing a new molecule, bringing a new molecule to the market takes so much time, because you work on side effects, on reliability. You look what will happen in 10 years if you take that medicine. So we should not forget that. Those are parts of it. It's not just an idea and put to the market. What in between having idea and putting the market takes money and know-how and tests and production and everything takes lots of time. We should not also forget that. If we forfeit that, we may have problems in next year or 2 years with the side effects. So it's a complex sometimes situation. You want to bring it out right now, but on the other side, you say, what will happen on those people in next year if we don't do all those tests properly? So, and as a big pharma, you have that responsibility as well. You have to be your own police. Otherwise, I'm sure you would like to have your molecules time to market in no time. And there are test people like me say, no, we have to test it first. And, but very critical. I look at the questions. Those are pretty much all. We come to the end. I would like to, we can continue, but everyone has their daily job as well. We have to come to a closure here. I would like to thank you, all of you, taking your time, being with us. One of the message I have, this collaboration is very critical. It has to be on the multi-layer. We would be very happy to collaborate with Novartis and with Roche, representative of Big Pharma. You are here, and it would be great to have an open channel to discuss issues with your company, because I receive lots of questions from SMEs, from startups, from academia. if I could channel them to you, I would be very happy in the future. Absolutely. And again, we'd like to thank you. And we have also donated on your name to World Wildlife Fund. We did donation to save our planet and to save the animals in the planet, WWF. And I would like to thank again the organizations that we co-hosted together, Swiss Hub, #1, Switzerland Global Enterprises, Consulate General of Switzerland, and Swiss Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much. And that's all. Thank you. And stay healthy. And please work hard to get this medicine and the vaccine out.